The first time I died, it was because I stepped on a landmine. Blew both my legs clean off. Sent a piece of my femur straight up through my pelvis and into my intestines. Blood and piss gushed everywhere. It was my fault, though. I was given one warning when finally sent into town on my own, and that was not to walk across Mrs. Lowenstein's front lawn. She hates it when you walk across her front lawn. And as I lay there dying, in agony, gasping my last breaths, she made her point.
That's why they made walkways, you idiot.
She definitely isn't a personable woman. Not as neighborly as, say, the Glasses, Travis and Carol. Lovely people, really, just lovely. Their front lawn is guarded by mini turrets. Instead of sprinkler heads that pop up to water the lawn, small gun turrets pop up and shred people's ankles. Then, as they fall over, because who can stand when your ankles are shredded? The rest of them gets shredded. But the difference between the Glasses setup and Mrs. Lowenstein's is that the Glasses have the dangers of their yard clearly marked by a simple, homemade sign by the curb. Do not approach the house. Defensive measures are in place. You have been warned. Thank you and have a great day. See? Very nice, helpful message from a very nice couple. Mrs. Lowenstein, on the other hand, has no sign and sits in a rocker on her front porch, beckoning for people to come visit her. She likes watching folks get their lower extremities blown to smithereens. Gives her a thrill. Probably why Mr. Dorman gives new residents like me a heads up. It's not his fault I didn't listen. Now, not all the neighbors are as thoughtful as the Glasses or as cruel as Mrs. Lowenstein. I'd say most fall in the middle. Helpful to you if it's helpful to them. Otherwise, you're on your own. And since I was new to town, I was still learning all the finer points of getting by day to day. And learning the finer points of Bishop's Hollow is how you make it down the street without having the back of your head blown off. Got a lot of snipers in Bishop's Hollow. A lot of snipers. Where to start? At the beginning? No. You don't want to hear my sad sack of a story. I'm just some loser who losered his way into a lucky situation. Dangerous, painful, bloody as fuck, but in its own way, very, very lucky. And lucrative too. I have made bank living in Bishop's Hollow. Not that I can spend that money on anything that isn't already in Bishop's Hollow. Amazon doesn't deliver here. There's no DoorDash that'll bring me coconut chicken from Ming's Temple, which was Daddy's favorite. But we do have a library, so that's nice. It's free though, so I can't spend my money there. But there are other places like, well, let's get to that. Bishop's Hollow. That's where I should start. A small town in New England, I think. It's the weather that gives it away. Not that I'm a weather guy. No, I'm not talented. I honestly don't know where I am, because as soon as I accepted the job and shook hands with Mr. Dorman, the recruiter, everything went black. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in the processing center in town. Mr. Dorman was back, and he gave me a short orientation. Although, it was only short, because I sorta stopped paying attention. There's a reason I have this job, and not some regular 9-to-5. I have issues that don't exactly make me the most desirable employee. Spacing off when someone is trying to teach me something is one of those issues.
Mr. Torrance?
Man, the walls in the processing center could really use a coat of paint. I mean, they are painted, but in that soulless beige color. They need a splash of color, some blue or even green. A splash of orange would be nice too. Maybe bright red?
Mr. Torrance! Yeah?
I replied, as Mr. Dorman stood in front of me, his hands on his hips, his face filled with frustration. It's a look and stance I'm very used to seeing.
What? Sorry,
I said and shook my head.
I was checking out the room's paint job. Yes, I could see that,
Mr. Dorman responded.
And did you come to a conclusion? Orange and blue,
I said.
But not University of Florida orange and blue. More like a burnt orange and a sky blue. Southwest tones, as opposed to Gulf Coast tones. Does that make sense?
Mr. Dorman sighed.
Yes, James Lee. It does make sense, and you are actually correct,
he admitted, and looked about the room.
I have put in multiple requests for new decor, but updating the design points in the processing center is not a priority at the moment.
Bummer, I said and then frowned.
What is it, James Lee? That right there, I said. I prefer JL. James Lee is what my daddy called me. And, well, you know how that went. I do, yes, he replied. It is why you are here.
He rubbed at his face and turned around, muttering,
What did I do to deserve this? I don't know, I said and shrugged. Who'd you hurt?
He looked over his shoulder at me, then he looked up at the video camera in the corner. When he returned his attention to me, he had a weird look on his face, kinda like he had to pee, but wasn't sure.
You heard me ask that? Ask what? When I mumbled what I did to deserve this. Yeah, I replied. Wasn't hard to hear, just the two of us in the room.
I looked around the orientation room, and it was true. Just me and Mr. Dorman. The other 36 seats were empty. All beige, by the way. Beige chair after beige chair. And plastic, no padding on the seat, like the one I was sitting in.
Are you okay, JL?
Mr. Dorman asked.
You look uncomfortable. Am I squirming? People say I squirm. You are squirming, yes. These chairs are a little hard on the bum. On the bum? On the bum. My apologies. May we continue with the orientation? Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead, I said and smiled, as I pointed at the PowerPoint presentation that was up on the big screen on the far wall. You went to a lot of trouble to make those slides. Thanks for that. Thanks for making a PowerPoint? Well, yeah. You could have just written on cardboard with markers. That works too. But you went all classy and professional. I mean, nothing is more classy and professional than a solid PowerPoint presentation. Are you fucking with me, JL? I sat up straight and frowned. I don't think so, I said. Do I sound like I'm fucking with you? It can be hard to tell sometimes. Hard for you to tell, or hard for others to tell? Both, I suppose, I shrugged. My daddy could never tell.
Mr. Dorman winced when I admitted that. Most people wince when I bring up my daddy, people who saw the news.
All right,
he said and looked at the PowerPoint slide on the screen.
Let's continue, shall we?
I nodded, and we continued. I don't remember any of the slides, but I know they were outstanding. Mr. Dorman is very good at PowerPoints. When the orientation was over, Mr. Dorman led me from the orientation room down a hallway that was painted beige, through a set of double doors, beige also, and into a large room with several sets of shelves, as well as plastic bins stacked ceiling high.
Let's get you provisioned, shall we?
He said, and went to the first shelf. Mr. Dorman has a funny way of talking sometimes. I think a therapist of mine once said that ending statements with questions of assent helped the person believe they had agency in the matter at hand. I don't know what any of that means, but I repeated it to a different therapist once, and she was very impressed by my self-awareness. Then I told her the color of her office walls was all wrong, and she stopped speaking to me for the rest of the day. After gathering all sorts of supplies into a really neat backpack, like toothpaste and a toothbrush, hand soap and shampoo, some aromatherapy candles, and a bunch of other stuff to make a home all homey, Mr. Dorman showed me to the front door.
Bishop's Hollow,
he said as he walked us out onto the set of stone steps that led up to the processing center's front doors. Although, I suppose the steps would have led down to Main Street, since I was already standing at the top and looking down at the pavement. Subtleties like that matter in Bishop's Hollow. Say the wrong thing the wrong way, and you end up blood-mist, believe me.
This town is exactly 4 miles square,
he continued, sweeping his hand out like he was showing me everything.
I only see the town square. Yes, right, well, of course, he replied, seeming miffed. You can't see it all from here.
Oh, I thought that was what you were showing me, I said. Everything.
No, I was explaining the town size, but showing you the town square.
Confusing.
Not really.
I think it is.
Yes, well.
So where do I live? I asked, looking the town square over. There was a diner, a barber shop, a beauty parlor, a pharmacy with the soda fountain and lunch counter advertised in the window, a library, a grocery store, a butcher's shop, a hardware store, an office supply store, an accountant's office, a toy store, and a doctor's office. Oh, and at the very end, opposite the processing center, is the town hall, which held the courthouse and police station. I pointed at the windows above the butcher shop.
Can I live there? No,
Mr. Dorman said.
no one lives in town.
Then what are those rooms for? I asked, still pointing at the windows above the butcher shop.
They have various uses,
he said, then turned and squinted at me.
You did pay attention during the orientation presentation, yes? Oh, yeah, totally,
I said.
Great slideshow, Mr. Dorman. Loved it.
He watched me for a few seconds. When it got uncomfortable, I looked at him and gave him a huge smile. Big smiles are reassuring. That's what a different therapist told me once.
Your residence will be on the west side of town,
he said, and pointed in that direction.
Cool, thanks,
I said, and hurried down the steps and into the street. I was really eager to see my new place. Oh wait, nope, I'm wrong. The first time I died wasn't on Mrs. Lowenstein's lawn. It was when I ran out into the street. I got hit by the SUV that had come to pick me up and take me to my new place. Whoever was driving really shouldn't have been going so fast. Yes, I stepped right into its path. Yes, I wasn't even looking at all. Yes, the SUV outweighs me by a couple thousand pounds, so I was destined to lose that one. But pay attention, right? Then I respawned, which is what I call it, even though it drives everyone nuts. And Mr. Dorman was showing me the town once again about 3 hours later.
I'm going to walk you down to the curb, JL,
he said, and took me by the elbow. Mr. Dorman is very courteous. Once I was in the SUV's back seat, I thanked Mr. Dorman and waved at him until he was lost from sight, as the driver turned left at the square and aimed us in what I assumed was west, since I apparently lived on the west side of town. I'm JL, I said to the driver. He just grunted. First day, I said. He grunted again. Already died once. He didn't grunt. Oh, was that you? I asked. Did you run me over? The driver sighed. I don't hold it against you, I continued. My fault for not looking both ways. Or looking at all, really. I was busy thanking Mr. Dorman. He's a nice guy, don't you think? Grunt. Yeah, me too, I said. And that PowerPoint? Don't get me started. That was sure something. I leaned up and put my head between the front seats. Say, do you remember what was in that presentation? Because I sort of spaced off, and I didn't want to tell Mr. Dorman. It would have offended him considering how much work he put into that PowerPoint. I waited, but the driver didn't respond. Didn't even grunt. He just drove. Right. Sorry, I said and leaned back. I'm being distracting, and you're just trying to get me to my house in one piece. That got a grunt, and I think a laugh. When we pulled up to the place, I frowned. An apartment house? I asked. I have to share space? Get out, the driver said, and the doors unlocked. I hadn't realized they'd even been locked. Good thing we hadn't had a fiery crash in the SUV. Talk about a death trap. But I thought I was getting my own house, I said. The brochure said I would have my own house. Get out, he said again, and then turned and stared at me. That's when I noticed he was missing his left eye and most of his nose. You bet, I said, and hurried out of the SUV, my new cool backpack gripped tightly in my hands. It was newer than the first one because the first one got all bloody and had a tear in it from when I got run over. The SUV drove off as soon as I closed the door. Then I stood there and stared at the sky blue semi-Victorian house that had been split into different apartments. 4 apartments if the row of mailboxes on the wall by the front door told me anything. I notice these things. I'm very observant.
Hey there,
I called to the young woman standing next to the mailboxes. There was no response, so I waved hard and yelled,
Hey there! Shut up and do not move,
the young woman muttered. It was hard to understand her because she barely opened her mouth when she spoke.
Are you a ventriloquist?
I asked as I hurried up the walkway. eager to meet my new neighbor.
Not to be rude, but I saw your lips move a little. Shut up,
she said, still barely moving her mouth.
Oh, sorry,
I said, mimicking her. I kept my mouth very still and then said,
Why are we talking like this? Was that in the PowerPoint? It was a great PowerPoint, but I sort of spaced out toward...
A bullet hole appeared in the second mailbox from the right. There was a little nameplate on it. James Lee Torrance.
What the heck?
I said and turned around to face the street.
I haven't even gotten a letter yet, and someone has shot a hole in my mailbox. Move!
The young woman shouted as she dove and tackled me about the waist. Several bullets impacted the apartment house's front wall, and front door, and front windows. Basically, the front of the apartment house caught some lead.
Inside, inside!
The young woman said, and managed to get the screen door open just enough to squeeze through into the apartment house's entranceway. Not wanting to be rude and leave her holding the door open, I scurried after her on my hands and knees. Several bees went whizzing by my head, which was strange. Where'd the bees come from? Then I realized they weren't bees. They were more bullets, which brought up the question of where the bullets came from. Bullets and bees, always showing up when you least want them to, right? The young woman spun around on her butt and then leaped to her feet. She grabbed the front door and slammed it closed. I heard several more bees try to get in. The second she had the door closed, she smashed her hand on a red button and a huge metal plate dropped down to seal off the front door and the side windows.
That'll do the trick,
I said, and got to my feet to offer the young woman my hand.
I'm JL. I know who you are,
she said, and took a couple of deep breaths.
We were all informed you'd be coming. There was a whole orientation for us. Was there a PowerPoint? What? A PowerPoint, a slideshow. Was that part of the orientation about me? Yeah. So? Did Mr. Dorman make the PowerPoint? He's really talented. Wow, they weren't kidding. You're fucking nuts. If I had a nickel for every time someone said that to me,
I said and laughed.
I'd have a lot of nickels. I bet you would,
she said, then saw that I still had my hand out. She shook it.
Astrid von Kleimer. I've heard that name before,
I said, and put a finger to my chin.
Funny,
she said and walked off.
I'll show you to your apartment. No, I have heard your name before,
I said, not following her. I had some thinking to do, and sometimes thinking is done best while you stand perfectly still with your finger on your chin.
Now, where would I have heard that name? Von Kleimer Hotels and Resorts, she said. If you think you're being cute, you... No, that's not it,
I responded, still trying to puzzle out where I'd heard her name before.
What are you doing?
She snapped.
Thinking?
I said, then frowned.
Darn it, lost my train of thought.
I switched hands.
Maybe this finger on my chin will be better. I butchered my whole family while they slept,
she said inside.
I was 11. It was all over the papers.
Nope, I said and kept thinking. Using my other finger wasn't helping any, so I shook my head.
It'll come to me. Can I show you your apartment now?
She asked, a little annoyed.
You bet,
I said and smiled.
What's stopping you? Right now, I really wish you could kill others in your household,
she said and started up the flight of stairs to the second floor.
But that would be too much chaos. Are we in the same household?
I asked.
I mean, if we have different apartments, then wouldn't each apartment be a household? Maybe.
We reached the second floor landing, and she pointed at the door on the left.
This is me,
she said.
2A.
Then she pointed to the door on the right.
And you are 2B.
Then she pulled a small pistol from her back pocket and aimed it right between my eyes.
If you're right, this could get very messy. If I'm right about what?
I asked as she pulled the trigger. Oh, crap. Nope. Wrong again. I was killed by the SUV, then shot by Astrid, before I ended up getting blown to bits on Mrs. Lowenstein's lawn. All the deaths are hard to keep track of, and it was my first day.
You didn't even get inside your apartment,
Mr. Dorman said, as he opened the door to the SUV and shoved me inside.
Are you even trying to stay alive? Aren't we all?
The door was slammed in my face. I'd think Mr. Dorman was being rude, but that just didn't feel like a thing Mr. Dorman would do. No one who can make PowerPoint presentations like that man could be rude enough to slam a car door in someone's face. When I finally did get inside my apartment, I was pleasantly surprised. The front room had a couch and 2 chairs. All beige, unfortunately. There was a TV in the corner, one of those old boxy kinds. There was a breakfast bar that separated the front room from the dining room kitchen combo. Just off the kitchen was the bathroom, and you actually had to go through the bathroom to get to my bedroom, which was cool. Kinda like a secret lair. Although, secret lairs shouldn't be painted beige. There was a knock at my door, and I set my backpack down on the couch, glanced out the front window at the street below, then walked over and opened the door.
Hello?
"Hey," Astrid said, and shoved past me into my new apartment.
Come in,
I said and closed the door.
Can I get you something to drink? I don't know if I have anything since I just walked in, but I'll look. Sparkling or still? What are you babbling about?
Astrid asked, looking my apartment over.
If I have water in the fridge,
I said and walked into the kitchen.
Do you want sparkling or still? I don't want anything. Oh, then why'd you ask for a drink? I didn't ask for a drink. You offered me one. That was nice of me. Do you want one? One what? A drink? I just said no. What the fuck is wrong with you? Might be the nuts thing,
I said and shrugged.
Who knows, really? Whatever,
she said and went to the front window. She looked out at the street below.
I do that too,
I said and moved next to her so I could share her view.
Fuck off, weirdo,
she said and pushed me away from her.
I just came over to tell you that yes, this whole apartment house is considered one household. We can't go buck wild and murder each other every time we bump into each other at the mailboxes. Why would I murder you?
I asked, seriously concerned.
You seem nice. Are you fucking with me?
She asked, and gave me the biggest look of disdain I have ever received in my life. And that's saying something.
I would never fuck with you without your consent,
I said and laughed. She didn't laugh with me.
Huh. That one all was killed in the hospital lounge. Of course, everyone there was highly medicated, so they could have been laughing at anything, really. Holy crap, you're going to be a handful, she said. So, because I broke a rule and killed someone in my household, I am now required to give you a tour of Bishop's Hollow. Oh, great, I exclaimed. Do I need to bring my backpack? No. Why would you need your backpack? What's in it? Mostly aromatherapy candles. We could burn them as we walk. Share the aroma with everyone. No, we're definitely not doing that.
She took a deep breath and shook her head.
I'm not actually going to give you a tour. You're not? Fuck no. I've got shit to do. But you were told to give me a tour because you broke a rule, I said, confused. Don't you have to? What are they gonna do? Kill me?
She laughed hard.
I don't get it, I said. You aren't afraid they'll kill you?
Then I leaned in close and looked about to make sure no one had come into my apartment and was listening to us and asked, Who's they? Did you pay attention at all during orientation? You bet, I said. What a PowerPoint. What a PowerPoint. Yeah, you didn't pay attention at all, she said. This should be fun. What should be? Watching you on your first day. Can't wait to see how many times you get killed. Well, so far it's been 3, and I haven't even had lunch yet. You should go check out Nikki's. Nikki's? The diner on the square, she said, and pointed out the window. A small bullet hole appeared right by the tip of her finger. Motherfucker, she growled, and threw the window open so she could lean out and yell, Newsom, not now, asshole! Then she leaned back in and slammed the window shut, causing a whole web of cracks to spread from the bullet hole. That's Vince, she said, cocking her head at the cracks that kept spreading on the glass pane. He likes to mess with you, even though shooting into residencies is strictly prohibited. She eyed me as I nodded in agreement. But you know that because you paid attention during orientation, she added. Boy, did I. Anyway, try Nikki's, she said, just as the glass pane completely cracked and fell out of the window frame. You're gonna want to clean that up. They'll bring a new window in a few minutes. Of course they will, I said and winked at her. Why are you winking? Because you said they, I replied and winked again. They? Man,
They really mined the crazy caves to find you, didn't they? No, they found me in Scranton, I said. I'm not from Scranton, so I'm not sure why I was there. I guess I walked, or did I take a bus? No one takes a bus anymore, she said. That's for poor people. I'm poor, I said. Until now. Now I have all kinds of cash. I am set. You think you're rich? With all the zeros they threw at me? Yeah, I'm rich. It's not real. I saw the check, I said, and held out my arms as far as I could. It was this big. She studied me for a few minutes, so I studied her. She was average height and average weight, I think. I don't know. What's average? Most of the women I'd seen were in hospital gowns or scrubs or dead or going to be dead. So who was I to say what was or wasn't average? And she had brown eyes and brown hair. Kinda nice looking. She made a warm place in my belly when I looked at her, so that meant she was nice looking. You done ogling me? I wasn't ogling, I said. I was looking you up and down. You're pretty. Want to be my girlfriend? Oh my fuck, she said and laughed. You are exactly what this place needs. I am? Great, I said. And what does this place need? Less boring and more crazy, she said and shrugged right as something in the kitchen shattered. Astrid spun about and yelled out the window. Knock it the fuck off, Newsom! It's his first fucking day! There was a pause, then a voice called out from across the street. Sorry, Astrid. I'll chill until tomorrow. No shooting at the house tomorrow either. Residences are off limits. You're no fun. I heard a window slam shut. He seems nice, I said and smiled at Astrid. So, boyfriend, girlfriend? Only if I'm really drunk and really horny, she said and walked to the front door. You coming? For what? So I can watch you die a few more times before tonight's meeting. I'm going to die? Oh, definitely. A few times? If we're lucky. Wow, this place is so cool and so real. I never thought VR could be this real. VR? As in virtual reality? She moved back to me, getting really close so she could look into my eyes. I leaned in. She shoved me away. Don't try to kiss me. I thought we were having a moment. No, I needed to look you in the eye to see if you were fucking with me. Never without your consent, remember? That's rapey creepy, so stop saying it. Sorry. You really think we're in some virtual reality game or some shit? I don't know if it's a game, but how else do you explain being able to respawn after being killed? I don't have to explain it, she said. It was already explained in great detail in that slideshow. A masterwork, if you ask me. You keep saying shit like that like you mean something, but I know you didn't even pay attention for one single slide. The first slide says, "Hello and welcome to Bishop's Hollow," I responded, pretty proud of myself. And what did the second slide say? Something equally as amazing. Yeah, this is going to be really fun. Great! I love fun! She went and opened my front door. Then let's get to it, she said as she waved me through. Clock's ticking. Let's see how many times you die before the meeting. What meeting again? Yeah, you're gonna be great to have around. And I'm hung like a horse, so don't forget to get drunk and horny later. I don't want you to miss out. Whatever, she said, then grabbed my arm and yanked me out of my apartment. Our romance was already blooming, and I hadn't even spent one night in Bishop's Hollow. Playa gonna play, right? I don't know what that means. I saw it on a mug once that an orderly always drank his coffee out of. He said he was great with the ladies. He was the one who handed out the paper cups with our pills, so I trusted him 100%. He'd never have a mug that lied, not that guy. Playa's gonna play. JL! Astrid yelled, snapping her fingers in front of my face. Stop saying Playa's gonna play and let's get going. The mug never lies, I replied, and followed her downstairs. That's not the craziest thing you've said so far, she said when we got to the front door. Okay, last bit of advice. I love advice, I said and frowned. So I hope it's not the last. Last for today, she said. Avoid Mrs. Lowenstein. As much as I want to see you get all exploded and shit, she's gotten out of hand, and we're trying not to encourage her. Oh, right. Astrid was the one who gave me that bit of advice. I thought it was Mr. Dorman.
I knew it wasn't in his PowerPoint presentation because I distinctly remember someone saying it to me. Not that I'm disparaging Mr. Dorman's work of art, but even a PowerPoint can't tell you all the secrets of the world. Those slideshows try so very hard, but they can't be everything to everyone all the time. "Avoid Mrs. Lowenstein," I said and nodded. "Got it." 15 minutes later, I was screaming on Mrs. Lowenstein's front lawn. In my defense, before she yelled about why walkways were invented, she did say there were cookies, and I do love freshly baked cookies. Although come to think of it, she never said they were freshly baked. She just said she had cookies, and I could have some if I came to her porch. Looking back on the moment, I almost feel like it was a setup. And knowing what I know about Mrs. Lowenstein now, I should never have fallen for the cookie trick. Unless it's Oreos, and who can resist the promise of Oreos? After being killed by Mrs. Lowenstein's yard, and after my third respawn of the day, Mr. Dorman stood with me at the top of the processing center steps and patted me on my shoulder. "I thought you were going to be a major problem when they told me to recruit you from the hospital," he said. "But it turns out you're just a minor problem." "I'm old enough to drink." "What?" "You called me a minor." "Minor problem? Like with a fake ID?" "Oh, sweet hell," he said, and stopped patting my shoulder so he could hurry me along down the stairs just like my daddy used to do. After picking myself up from the fall down the stairs, I looked up to the top of the steps to give Mr. Dorman a thumbs up, but he was already gone. Probably back inside to make more awesome PowerPoints. Although, it's hard to top perfection. "Am I getting a ride?" I shouted at the processing center. When there was no response, I sat down on the curb and waited for the SUV to show up. The sun began to set, and I got the feeling that I wasn't getting a ride. But the most wonderful thing happened. All of the residents of Bishop's Hollow began to flood the town square. I stood and watched them move onto the grass in the center of the square. There were beige folding chairs set up in the front of the small gazebo, and people began to take seats in those beige folding chairs. "Hey!" I called and crossed the street. A horn honked and an SUV raced by, nearly clipping my hip. "Careful there, buddy," a man said as I hurried the rest of the way across the street to the grass. "Are you trying to get killed?" The man was older than me. Not as old as my daddy the last time I saw him, but close. With salt and pepper hair on his head and in his beard, the guy stood with his thumbs hooked in the pockets of his jeans. He wore a black t-shirt with some metal band on it. The band looked really cool. T-shirts never lie. "It's my first day," I said and offered my hand when I reached him. "Yeah, we know," he said and shook my hand. "Grady Frisk." "James Lee Torrance," I said, "but I prefer JL. "From what I've heard, you kill folks who call you James Lee." "I do? Well, I must have a reason," I replied and smiled. "Astrid was right," Grady said and shook his head. "Come on, let's get you a seat. You never want to be late for or miss a meeting." "What's the meeting about?" I asked as I followed him around the rows of seats until we found two at the end of the middle row. "She said you were clueless too," Grady said as he took his seat. I sat next to him and nodded. "Astrid's my girlfriend," I said. "I know we just met, but she brought it up and I didn't want to be rude." "I'm not surprised you say that," Grady said, then pointed at the gazebo. "Meeting's gonna start. Pay attention, keep quiet." Mr. Dorman appeared at the gazebo steps and held up his hands. "Mr. Dorman! Woohoo!" I shouted and clapped, then I spun my fist in the air. "Woo! Thank you, JL," Mr. Dorman said. "Bishop's Hollow, let's welcome James Lee Torrance as our latest resident. But call him JL unless you want to be split up the middle." "Oh, I don't do that anymore," I said as all heads turned to stare at me. "I was rehabilitated." The heads stared. Then they broke out into laughter. I laughed too, because one should never waste an opportunity to join in laughing maniacally with new friends. All right, Mr. Dorman said. "Quiet down. We have business to attend to." A hand shot up from the second row, middle seat. It was an older but very attractive woman. If Astrid hadn't already been my girlfriend, I would have asked the older but very attractive woman to be. She seemed nice. "No questions yet, Nina," Mr. Dorman said. "Tell me no again,
and I'll slice your balls off and put them in my ball jar.
The older but very attractive woman named Nina screamed at Mr. Dorman.
How many balls you got in there now, Nina?
A man shouted from the very back row. I didn't turn around to see him because Mr. Dorman was clapping his hands together very loudly, and loud clapping hands are always sure to keep my attention.
Knock it off,
Mr. Dorman said.
Let me get through the evening's announcements, and then we'll go through the rankings. You're gonna be on there,
Grady said, leaning close so only I could hear.
I am? After today? Yeah, definitely. Cool.
He eyed me and frowned.
If you say so. First announcement has to do with the Valentine's Day dance,
Mr. Dorman said.
There won't be one next year.
No one reacted. I would have been bummed if I was told there was no Valentine's Day dance next year.
After the insane massacre at this year's dance, management has decided that the cost is just too much,
Mr. Dorman continued.
The printers had to work overtime for 6 whole days before everyone could be completed. Online metrics showed a distinct displeasure at this delay, so no more dances. Of any kind?
Someone asked.
Or just Valentine's Day? Since Valentine's Day is the only dance we put on, then yeah, all dances.
I raised my hand.
No, don't,
Grady said, and yanked my hand down. Mr. Dorman looked our way and I waved.
You are something, that's for sure,
Grady said. Mr. Dorman sighed.
Yes, JL? Hi.
I shouted as all heads turned to me.
I'm James Lee Torrance, but I go by JL. Don't call me James or Lee or James Lee. Definitely don't call me Shirley.
No one laughed. I should have made a PowerPoint.
Anyway, I just want to say that while I disagree with Mr. Dorman regarding the banning of all dances, we should remember that he works very hard and has lots of important slideshows to make, so let's not waste his time.
I waited for the applause. They didn't applaud. It made me a little sad.
Doesn't everyone agree?
I asked and stood up. I looked about and saw angry faces. Why were they angry? I was praising the great Mr. Dorman.
Thank you, JL. But if we could get on with the meeting now, please?
Mr. Dorman said.
You all should applaud,
I said, and started to get that feeling down deep. Not the fluttery one when I look at Astrid. No, the other one.
I'm not saying you should applaud for what I said,
I continued, the feeling growing stronger and stronger.
But you should show your appreciation for all the hard work this man does for you.
I put my hands together, looked at Mr. Dorman and bowed.
Thank you, Mr. Dorman.
Then I sat down and waited.
Nice speech.
Grady leaned over and said,
Made 0 sense, but it was nice. Thank you,
I said and waited some more. Then all heads turned and looked away, their attention back on Mr. Dorman.
They aren't clapping or saying thank you,
I said.
Not that kind of meeting,
Grady replied.
You'll get used to it.
My hand snapped out and chopped him across the throat. His eyes bugged out and he tried to cough, but there was no air going through that crushed windpipe.
JL!
Mr. Dorman yelled. People were up on their feet and coming for me.
You don't want to clap for Mr. Dorman?
I shouted as I stood to meet them.
Then what the fuck do any of you assholes even need hands for?
The first hand that reached me was ripped off at the wrist. I had a lot of experience removing hands, beginning with my daddy's. All that slapping and hitting and punching just wasn't very nice. I didn't like it anymore. So I took his hands and made him watch. Just like with all the assholes trying to jump me. A woman screamed and I jammed her hand down her throat. I think it was her right hand, not sure. Then some old fart tried to stab me with a very long knife. I took the knife from him because he was too old for something so dangerous. But then I felt bad, so I gave it back to him. In the right ear. Just stuck it right in. I didn't take his hands. A guy maybe a couple of years younger than me jumped onto my back, but I tucked and threw him into 3 other guys who were shoving chairs out of their way to get to me. They fell in a clump, and all I had to do was pick up a different chair, spread those legs wide, then slam it down on the pile. One guy got a chair leg through the guts, another through the chest. A third took a hard hit to the eye socket, but it bounced off. I don't know what happened to the 4th leg, because I was yanked off my feet and thrown backward across the rows of chairs. I was a little dazed, so I didn't defend myself as I should have. I took a few shots to the head and the body. Then someone reached down to pick me up. Big mistake. I sunk my teeth into one of those wrists and bit as hard as I could. When I pulled back, my teeth tore tendons and muscle and skin. As whoever it was screamed, I shook my head back and forth like a rabid dog until the bones broke and the hand popped off.
JL, stop!
With blood dripping down my front and the nasty taste of bad cologne in my mouth, I shoved away from the guy who tried to grab me. He was screaming and screaming, so I chopped his neck to shut him up. Mr. Dorman was rushing me and had something to say. I didn't get to hear it, as the lights went out just after I felt a nasty bit of pain in the back of my head. When I came to, I was back in the processing center, seated in the center seat in the center row of the orientation room. Mr. Dorman was sitting on a stool at the front of the room.
Hey, Mr. Dorman,
I said.
Great meeting.
I looked about.
Why are we here? Did something happen? Other than you going crazy and mutilating several residents?
He asked, and he didn't sound happy about what he was saying, which was weird because I'd have been ecstatic that a bunch of people were mutilated for being so rude.
No, JL, nothing happened. Did they die? The two you chopped in the neck did, yes,
he answered.
The rest will live, although several are missing either one or both of their hands. Most likely they will set themselves up to be killed, so their clones can be reprinted whole. No one wants the disadvantage of having missing extremities if they don't have to, not in Bishop's Hollow. Well, if they die, they'll just respawn like me,
I said, and gave Mr. Dorman 2 thumbs up. Then I looked at the screen on the wall.
Am I going to see a new PowerPoint? No, JL, no PowerPoints today. Why not? Because you don't seem able to actually comprehend what you are being taught by the slides. What do you mean? The PowerPoint you were shown had all the information you needed to be successful in Bishop's Hollow. Yet, you retained none of it. Well, that's just not true, Mr. Dorman,
I protested, because a protest was in order. I couldn't believe Mr. Dorman didn't think I paid attention to his meticulously built PowerPoint presentation. From the font to the spacing of the lines, he knew his slides. I paid attention to it all.
Where are we, JL?
Mr. Dorman asked.
Bishop's Hollow. And what is Bishop's Hollow? A virtual reality simulation for badass killers like me. For the criminally insane, you mean? Oh, are there crazy people in here too? There is no in here, JL. You are not in a simulation.
I laughed and waved a hand at him.
Oh, Mr. Dorman, you should have been a stand-up comic. That was hilarious.
I leaned forward, eager to hear his next joke.
Next, you'll tell me that I actually died. You did. 4 times on your first day. It's not a record, but it is an achievement. I've always been an overachiever. My daddy used to say I could win a first-place trophy in any subject, as long as it was for being stupid, being lazy, being off my rocker, being violent, or being obsessed with PowerPoint presentations. Anyone with that many first-place trophies has to be an overachiever. Sweet Christ. Amen,
I added. He left his stool and walked down the aisle to my row. Then he took a seat right next to me and patted me on the shoulder.
You have had several traumatic brain injuries in your life, JL. That is why you weren't convicted of all those horrible things you did. It was easy to see that you weren't fit to stand trial. No PowerPoints in the courtroom. Well, that's not true,
Mr. Dorman said.
There are plenty of presentations in... Wait, never mind. I'm not getting into an argument about where PowerPoints are and are not allowed. Me neither, because I'd never argue with you, Mr. Dorman. Do you remember what you did? To all those people? To your father? Oh, I remember what I did to Daddy, that's for sure. You take a man's hands off and he can't hold his pecker when he pees or wipes his ass after he shits. I didn't think that one through. The police found your father emaciated and near death in his bedroom. He was covered in his own filth. Shouldn't have lost his hands,
I said and shrugged.
Wait, near death? He died before he got to the hospital. Phew! I wouldn't be an overachiever if he hadn't died. Sure, right. But, do you remember the others?
He pulled something from his pocket, a remote. Then he aimed it at the screen and clicked it. Pictures of young women and young men and old women and old men began to fill the screen.
Hey! I know that guy!
I shouted as I pointed at the screen. I used my finger to point, since I didn't have a remote.
Go back!
Mr. Dorman went back one picture.
That's my lawyer,
I said proudly.
He was expensive. He was a public defender, in over his head when you decided you didn't want to be classified as mentally unfit to stand trial. You literally bit off all of his fingers, then headbutted him so many times and so badly that he's blind now. So not all the pictures are of people I killed? That's a little misleading, Mr. Dorman.
Mr. Dorman sighed. It can be tiring being wrong sometimes.
Anyway, let's move on,
he said and clicked the remote. The pictures went away.
This is not a virtual reality simulation. It's not?
I asked and looked around.
Then what's up with all the beige? It's a soothing color. Lame. Yes, well, the color of the paint doesn't matter. What about the color of the chairs? Do they matter?
Mr. Dorman sighed again.
What has happened to you, JL, is that you have been included in a very exclusive, very secret project. Bishop's Hollow is real as any place on Earth. It's just special in many ways. Bishop's Hollow is real?
I asked, then shook my head.
Mr. Dorman, you're pulling my leg. It can't be real. And why is that? Because I died 4 times, just like you said. People can't die and come back to life. That only happens in video games. You respawn when you die in them, just like here. I respawned. No, JL, you actually died 4 times. And you weren't respawned. You were printed. The body you are in right now is a clone of your original. In fact, the body you arrived in was a clone. Officially, you died of a brain aneurysm in the hospital. So I've died 5 times?
I asked, impressed.
That deserves a first-place trophy. It's still not the record,
Mr. Dorman said. He slowly reached out and patted my shoulder.
Are you understanding anything I've said so far? Sure. Simple pimple. Great, great.
He took a deep breath.
Now the hard part. Nothing is too hard for a man with your PowerPoint skills. Okay, JL. Bishop's Hollow serves a very specific purpose. I hope that purpose isn't to make beige a more popular color. No, nothing to do with the color beige. The purpose is to allow those close to victims of horrible crimes to find some sort of justice. Not closure, because many will never have that, but justice. Got it. I totally understand. I haven't fully explained it yet. Sorry. It's all right, JL. Thanks. So, one of the people you killed was part of a very prominent, very wealthy family. A family with the means to send you here. Why? So they can watch you die over and over and over. That sounds boring. Wouldn't they rather watch Netflix? No, JL. They'd rather watch you get killed by the other residents. Because that is what happens in Bishop's Hollow. Our customers pay very large sums to be able to order the deaths of those they despise. For example, last week, Grady. Do you remember Grady? Oh, sure, he was nice. We talked at the meeting before everything went all cuckoo. Before you killed him, you mean? If you say so. Well, last week, Grady was hired by one customer to kill Mrs. Simons. I don't know who that is. Doesn't matter.
I shrugged, because I didn't want to argue with Mr. Dorman.
Grady killed Mrs. Simon with a shovel, just as he was asked to do. After the job was done, several $1,000s were deposited into his account. The company took 85% and left 15% for him to use as he sees fit. 85%?
I asked, doing some quick math on my fingers.
That's almost 100%. It is, but the point is that Grady was assigned a job and he completed it. The customer was happy and they rewarded him, and the company, for his work. Odds are, they'll ask him to kill Mrs. Simons again down the road. Why is she in the road? What? You said Grady will kill Mrs. Simon again down the road. Why is she in the road? It's an expression. May I continue?
I nod.
Thank you. Well, when Mrs. Simons was killed, a little microchip implanted in her brain sent a signal to this building. That signal uploaded all current data, her memories, if you will, and then a new body was printed out in one of the many cloned vats we have on hand. She was back to normal in just a couple hours.
I laughed.
What's funny? You expect me to believe that instead of being in a virtual reality simulation, that people can be cloned and have all their memories restored in the new body? That's exactly what I want you to believe. Now who's crazy?
I chuckled.
Everyone knows cloning isn't real. Now, virtual reality simulations, those are real. You think that cloning hasn't been invented, but a fully immersive simulation, including total sensory integration with instant recall, is possible? Well, duh. I see,
he said and rubbed his face. Then he shrugged and patted my shoulder again.
You know what? It doesn't matter what you believe, as long as you play the game when instructed to. Ha! The game! You just admitted this is a simulation! No, JL. It's what we informally call our platform. The game. Our customers pay to have criminally insane people like you moved to Bishop's Hollow. Then they pay to watch the 16 million live camera feeds we have set up. And they also pay to have residents killed based on their own preferences. Not all are looking for justice, unfortunately, and many customers end up forgetting about their original targets. They just start ordering kills at random. That's why we call it the game. Do you understand? Nope,
I said and shook my head. Honesty is the best policy.
You should make a PowerPoint with all that information. It'll be easier to understand that way. I have made a PowerPoint on all of this, JL. You watched it yesterday. And I bet it was fantastic.
Mr. Dorman smiled at me, then he cocked his head.
Okay, it's tough love time, JL,
he said and put his hand back on my shoulder.
The customers, especially your patron, are getting tired of your obsession with PowerPoint presentations. They are asking that you stop bringing up PowerPoints, or there will be consequences. Consequences? Yes, JL, consequences. What kind of consequences? The deadly kind. Like cancer? No, not like cancer. More like you being killed in horrible ways kind. Not sure I like that kind. Most people don't. So do me a favor and stop talking about PowerPoint presentations, okay?
I shrugged.
All right. I guess I can stop talking about them.
I felt dirty even saying those words.
Great, JL. That's just great. Cool. Can I go now? I'm a little hungry. Do I have enough money in my account to get dinner at Nikki's Diner? It's lunchtime. We didn't reprint you until the next day. That way, you and I could have this little talk before I send you out into town. Oh, got it. Do I have enough in my account for lunch then? So, you understood that part of what I explained to you? What part? That residents here get a certain percentage of money paid for their work. They do? What kind of percentage?
Mr. Dorman sighed.
Never mind. Yes, you can go now. I'll walk you out.
And being the stand-up guy he is, Mr. Dorman did walk me out. We stood at the top of the steps and stared out at Bishop's Hollow, my new home.
Can I have a camera? Sure. What for? Do you need it for surveillance or night vision or what? It helps if you are specific, so the supply team can get you the right camera.
Oh, I just need a basic one that can take pictures for the PowerPoint presentation I want to make about Bishop's Hollow.
Shit,
Mr. Dorman said, and hurried back inside the processing center.
Mr. Dorman?
I called after him.
Where are you going? You said shit. Do you need to go poop?
Then it all went dark.
You were shot from 700 yards,
Mr. Dorman said when he walked me out to the front steps the second time that day.
Do you know why?
Because 800 yards is too hard?
No, because you said the PP word and a customer got mad, so they put out a hit on you. I was killed because I said something about pee? That's not right, Mr. Dorman. I asked you if you had to poop, not pee. No, not pee, JL. PP. PowerPoint, remember? I just told you earlier today that there have been requests for you to stop talking about PowerPoints. It's turning some customers off. We don't want that. We want them happy and engaged and spending money for justice. Don't we all? You really can't hold a clear thought for long, can you? Like brain thoughts? Yes, JL, like brain thoughts. Daddy said that when they handed out brains, I was last in line and got the leftovers. He would say I had a chinchilla brain, not a man's brain. But I opened up a chinchilla's head once, and I opened up a person's head and set them side by side, and they looked the same. One's just bigger. The person's brain was. Yes, JL. I get. No, silly. The chinchilla's brain was bigger. Duh.
Mr. Dorman pinched the bridge of his nose and shook his head.
Nikki's is still open for lunch if you want to hurry over there before they switch to the dinner menu,
he said and gave me a little shove in the back.
Might as well get this over with. Get what over with? Putting you back in Bishop's Hollow. Sounds like a plan, Mr. Dorman. Then move along, JL. Move along. I have work to do. Making another mean PowerPoint presentation.
There was a thwacking noise and then pain in my chest.
Ow!
I said as I looked down at an arrow shaft sticking out from between my ribs.
You have got to be shitting me,
Mr. Dorman said as he walked away.
I had shit to do today other than prepping your damn vat, JL.
Then he walked off, leaving me at the top of the steps with an arrow in my chest. Then there was a second thwack.
Hey, Mr. Dorman, I got 2 arrows now.
But he was gone, so I just looked down at the arrows.
They probably don't let you eat a Nicky's with arrows in you. I should take care of these.
I grabbed each shaft and yanked as hard as I could.
Ow! They're barbed!
Not that I'd let that stop me. I gripped tighter and pulled even harder. After a few seconds, the arrows both came right out. They took a lot of my fleshy bits with them, and in about 2 seconds, I felt lightheaded.
Gotta sit down,
I mumbled, then collapsed onto my butt on the top step. A top step that was all wet with blood.
I wonder where all the blood is from.
Mr. Dorman walked me to Nikki's diner when I came to again.
It's the dinner menu now, but you will find something you like, I'm sure,
he said, opening the door for me. Inside, all of the customers turned and glared at me.
I have work to do, people,
Mr. Dorman said.
I can't keep printing out new JLs, okay? So do me a favor and try not to kill him for at least an hour or so.
No one replied.
Great,
Mr. Dorman said and left.
Hi,
I said and waved.
You can take a seat at the bar,
A waitress said, pointing to the one open seat left.
You want coffee, tea, soda pop, water, beer? Do you have grape soda? We have all the sodas, kid,
The waitress said, even though she was around my age.
Take a seat and I'll get you grape soda and a menu.
Thanks, I said, so happy to finally be in Nikki's diner. Mr. Dorman should make a PowerPoint about Nikki's. It's cool. I sat down, and the waitress set a cup of grape soda in front of me and a menu. And I thanked her, and I sipped at the soda, and I looked over the menu, and I was about to order when a very large man walked up to me and took the soda right out of my hands, and then he started to lift it over my head, probably to dump it on me. But I wasn't having that, so I grabbed the salt shaker that was close by and shoved it right through his left eye. It was really fun. Some customers didn't like that, so they came to help get the salt shaker out of their friend's eye. But I could see forks and knives in their hands, and knowing exactly what Daddy would do to me with forks and knives, I jumped off my bar stool, picked it up, and smashed in 2 of the salt shaker guy's friends' heads. Nikki's is the best.
Can you please stop?
The waitress shouted as I looked for a new weapon. I really wanted to get back into the kitchen and look for a meat cleaver. Meat cleavers are the best for cutting off hands.
You!
The waitress shouted at me.
If you want to eat here, then you have to behave. He took my grape soda,
I said, and pointed down at the dead man at my feet. He was in a pool of blood, with a salt shaker sticking out of his eye of all places. I wonder how that got there. I gave his corpse a hard kick.
That was rude of you to take my grape soda. It was rude,
a man said from a booth in the back of the diner. He waved at me, and I recognized those hands right away.
Hey, Grady,
I said and waved at him.
I got this, Alice,
He said to the waitress.
He can join me and I'll keep an eye on him. No more fights until after the dinner rush, okay?
The waitress, Alice, said to me as she waved her ticket book in my direction.
Learn the rules or don't get served here anymore. Sorry,
I said.
Rules are important.
She rolled her eyes and walked back into the kitchen. I made my way around the table to the back booth.
Thanks,
I said as I sat down across from Grady. I rubbed the red leather and smiled.
Nice booth. One of the perks of knowing how to get along here in Bishop's Hollow,
he said and smiled.
And, by the way, no hard feelings for killing me with that throat chop. It was an impressive blow. I learned from my daddy,
I said.
He'd do it to me all the time and say that I was lucky he held back each time or I'd be dead. He taught me good. Looks like it,
Grady said, then smiled as Alice set my new grape soda down.
Thanks, Alice. Behave,
she said to me, then walked off.
I didn't get to order my food. She'll be back,
Grady responded.
She just needs to clean up your mess. Oh, right,
I said, then looked the menu over a few times before deciding on the fish and chips. I looked up at Grady.
What are you getting? I already ate. I was gonna head out when Dorman walked you in. Figured you might need a friendly face. Even after I chopped your throat and you died? Listen, JL, it's clear you have some cognitive issues. A lot of people here in Bishop's Hollow do. It's way worse than you. But no one here is going quite as hard as you. You gotta chill out. Stop taking everything so personally. Learn the ways of Bishop's Hollow before you make your moves. Right now, you're killing for nothing. Wait for a job that pays before you go all homicidal maniac. I'm not a maniac,
I said, not liking Grady at the moment.
No, you're not. You're a cool dude,
he said and held up his hands. Such fine hands.
That's why I don't want you acting like the maniacs we have in here. Just chill. Can you do that? Can you just chill? I guess.
Alice came back like Grady said she would, and I placed my order for fish and chips.
You can have a good life here, JL,
Grady said as Alice walked away.
Alice has been here for 20 years now. One of the first. Her?
I said, and turned around to point at Alice. She scowled and gave Grady a harsh look.
Stop staring and pointing,
Grady said.
You don't age here. Your clones are the same age as when they wheeled you into the processing center. I'll always be this age?
I asked.
They should really put that info into power. No,
Grady said, and lurched across the table to press his hand against my mouth. He was about to lose a few fingers, but then he took his hand away and sighed.
You gotta stop saying that,
he said and shook his head.
You have to learn how to make it work in Bishop's Hollow, not how to make Bishop's Hollow work for you. Understood?
I nodded, even though I had no idea what he was talking about.
Alice learned to make it work,
Grady continued.
Now she runs Nikki's and doesn't have to go out and kill anymore. She doesn't kill at all? I didn't say that. I said she doesn't have to go out and kill. No need when eventually everyone in town will walk through those doors at some point. And if they don't, she subcontracts. Oh,
I said and nodded, even though Grady obviously made the word subcontract up.
What I'm saying, JL, is that you can have a good life here,
he said.
It's violent and dangerous, but considering you can't really die, well, that gives you an opportunity to change, to learn. Oh, okay. Really? Yeah, sounds good.
I looked over my shoulder.
I hope my fish and chips are ready soon.
When I looked back at Grady, he was frowning.
What?
I asked.
What's wrong? Do you remember anything I just said to you? Sure. Can you tell me the highlights? Sure.
He waited. I waited.
Now, JL,
he said.
What did I just say to you? Something about highlights? Wow,
he said and took a deep breath.
No wonder Dorman is close to cracking. He is? How sad. I like Mr. Dorman.
I said and snapped my fingers.
Next time you tell me something, you should put it in a PowerPoint presentation. Motherfucker,
Grady whispered as Alice arrived with my fish and chips. He looked up at her.
I tried. I know,
She said and set my food down in front of me.
Thanks.
I said and went for my silverware. Alice grabbed me by the back of the head and slammed my face down into the plate of fish and chips.
Ow! You're hot!
I tried to yell around the face full of fried fish and potatoes. Then a sharp pain exploded in my temple.
How about you try dinner at home for a while?
Mr. Dorman said, as he personally walked me from the processing center to my apartment house. I had to nod, because I couldn't really answer him with the ball gag in my mouth. I would have never thought someone like Mr. Dorman was into stuff like ball gags, but you just never know with people. Astrid was standing on the porch, leaning next to the front door. She didn't look happy.
Not cool, Dorman,
she said when we walked up the steps. I tried to say something about Mr. Dorman being very cool, but the words came out all jumbly and muffled.
You stay quiet,
Astrid said. Then she focused on Mr. Dorman again.
His people will really pay me $200,000 to babysit him all night? That's right,
Mr. Dorman said.
They feel he's not understanding the seriousness of his situation. They would like him to get through at least 24 hours without dying. Otherwise, it will never settle in that brain of his that Bishop's Hollow is not a vacation.
I'd never been on a vacation before, and I struggled to get that out, but it was no use. The ball gag won that battle.
Quiet,
Astrid said.
Adults are talking. Are you going to take him?
Mr. Dorman asked, giving me a little push toward Astrid.
I'm thinking,
she said. Then cocked her head at the front door.
Yeah, I'll do it. But I want the $200,000 to be my percentage, not the full payout. I walk with $200,000 in my account after I keep him alive for 24 hours or no deal. I'll talk to management, but I believe we can make that happen, even if the customer doesn't want to increase the amount on their end. Will that suffice? That will suffice,
Astrid said, then shook her head.
And Jesus Christ, get this thing off of him.
She reached up and undid my ball gag.
Oh, wowzers,
I said and worked my jaw a few times.
I don't know why people think those things are fun. Yeah, they look like fun in those movies Daddy would show me, but when you actually wear one, I have to say no thanks to that. Let's get you inside before you say something stupid,
Astrid said.
Besides what you just said. 24 hours,
Mr. Dorman said.
No problem,
Astrid said, and yanked open the door so she could shove me inside. It was a little rougher treatment than I liked from a girlfriend, but we'd only been together for a short time, so we were still working out the kinks.
Let's get you inside and undercover,
Astrid said, looking around the neighborhood. She pointed a finger at a window across the street.
Not now, Newsom. He hasn't said it.
Astrid shoved me through the front door just as someone yelled,
He'll say it at some point. Whatever,
Astrid said, and then slammed the door closed without even a goodbye to Mr. Dorman. It looked like we would be working out kinks as well as manners later. Astrid walked me up to my apartment and let me in.
You have a key? For 24 hours I do,
she said and shoved me inside.
And no, that doesn't make me your girlfriend. Of course not. It's not the love between us that bonds us, not some trinket. Trinket? I read that on a greeting card once. Good for you.
She went around the living room and closed all the drapes.
Sit,
she said and pointed to the couch.
And leave the lights off, or they'll see your silhouette. People are saying fuck it to the rules right now. Okay,
I replied. I was a little beat, even though I just respawned only an hour ago. Room by room, she checked out the whole apartment.
I think we're good,
she said when she came back into the living room. She stood in front of me, looking down, her hands on her hips and her eyes narrowed. Daddy used to look at me the same way, just before he explained why my punishment was all my fault.
I have never seen Dorman so upset before,
she said, then smiled.
Way to go. I upset Mr. Dorman?
I asked, shocked.
Why are you smiling about that? Dorman's a tool,
she said and walked away. She plopped down in one of the chairs.
He's management's mouthpiece. Never trust that man. He is not on your side. Yes, he is,
I exclaimed.
He even made a PowerPoint just for me. Fucking hell!
Astrid shouted and threw herself on the floor. When nothing happened, she slowly pulled herself back up into the chair.
Was it a bee? What? A bee. Did a bee try to sting you? Is that why you fell on the floor? No, it's because you said the... You know what? Let's not do this.
She stood up and went to the kitchen.
You got any booze? Oh, I don't really drink,
I said.
Daddy said it makes your pecker limp. And men like me don't have limp peckers. Holy Christ, you are one weird fucking dude,
she said, and started going through all the cupboards.
But you aren't wrong. Not a drop of booze in the place. I'll be right back. Where are you going?
I asked as she walked to my apartment door.
Gonna have to pluck a bottle or two from my stash, he said. I'll be right back. Chill.
She left quickly, and I eased back into the couch. Even though I didn't really drink, a cocktail with my girlfriend sounded great. The door flew open and Astrid stuck her head in.
Do not go anywhere,
she said, eyeing me hard.
Stay fucking put on that fucking couch, you hear me? Staying put right here, sweetheart,
I said, knowing that girlfriends liked to be called sweetheart. She shook her head and left. I did as she said and didn't go anywhere. I just sat there and looked around my new apartment. It was only the second time I'd been in it, so it was all brand new to me. That's when I saw the window over by the breakfast bar slowly slide open. A person dressed head to toe in black wriggled through the small gap and tumbled onto the floor.
Hi,
I said, staying put as asked. The person dressed in black jumped a little and then looked over at me.
Are you a ninja? I am death incarnate,
they said, and I could tell it was a woman from the sound of her voice.
Oh, cool,
I said.
I'm James Lee Torrance, but call me JL. I've never heard the last name Incarnate before. Neat name. What?
The ninja with the last name Incarnate asked.
So, do you know how to use nunchucks and throwing stars and all those cool weapons? My daddy liked to watch kung fu movies, and I always wanted to get good at throwing stars. Ninjas are Japanese, and kung fu is Chinese,
the ninja with the last name Incarnate said.
Learn your cultures, loser. Loser?
I said and stood up.
That's rude. We just met. You should get to know someone before you call them a loser. No time to get acquainted, loser,
the ninja said, as she pulled a black pistol with a long suppressor out from behind her back.
Where were you keeping that? That had to sting. What? No, gross. I have a holster at the small of my back. That makes way more sense. Are you going to shoot me with that? I am, because you said power.
The door to my apartment burst open, and Astrid walked in with a pistol in each hand. She was firing before the ninja could finish her sentence. When it was quiet, and Astrid stood over the ninja corpse, I said,
Her name was Death Incarnate. Cool, right? Her name is Betty Ortega and she'll be back,
Astrid said, when she crouched down and pulled the ninja ski mask off.
We can't stay here. You're coming to my place. A sleepover! Neat!
I said and looked around.
What should I bring? Just your crazy self. But first, help me with her, will you? Help how? Grab her arms and I'll take her legs,
Astrid said, then went and fully opened the window the ninja came in.
It makes it easier for cleanup if the bodies are outside.
She lifted, I lifted. We carried the dead ninja to the window and then shoved her out. The wet thunking sound she made when she hit the grass made me giggle.
Sounded like poop. For fuck's sake,
Astrid said and grabbed my elbow.
Come on, I want you secured and locked down so I can get some rest. Okay,
I said.
But we have to use protection. We are not sleeping together.
She snapped.
Huh? No, I meant a shotgun,
I said.
Daddy called his shotgun protection. You killed your daddy, right? Sure did. And you had a good reason? Sure did. Then maybe don't quote the guy so much. I don't know what that means, but okay. Good, she said, leading me out of my apartment and over to hers. Now, let's get you drunk.
She wasn't lying about that. Once she had locked her door, making sure all 8 deadbolts were secure, and the heavy metal bar across the door was secure, and the laser alarms were set on each window, and her bulletproof drapes were drawn, then she poured me a big glass of alcohol. I don't know what type of alcohol it was, but I didn't like it. Then she found some soda in her fridge and mixed the alcohol with that. It wasn't grape soda, but it tasted pretty nice. I think I had about 8 of those,
Ow!
I said when I woke up.
My head hurts. Why? It's called a hangover.
Astrid said from a chair across the room as I lay on the couch.
They tend to hurt. I don't like it.
I said and sat up. The world spun and I vomited all over myself.
Oops. It's okay. I put plastic down,
She said and got up.
I'll get a towel. Don't move, or you'll get it everywhere.
I looked down and saw the plastic on the couch. I also saw a lot of red.
Am I bleeding?
I asked when she returned with the towel.
No. You really liked the maraschino cherries I was putting in your drinks, so you ate the whole jar,
She said. She wiped me off and helped me up.
Let's get you into the shower.
She showed me to the bathroom and waited by the door.
Turn around.
I said as I unbuttoned my jeans.
You don't want me to see you naked?
She replied and laughed.
I thought I was your girlfriend?
Then she shook her head and muttered.
Why'd I say that? Fuck. I'm not embarrassed.
I said and stripped down. Her eyes went wide. She nodded at the shower.
You know how to work a shower? Of course,
I said.
Daddy stopped turning it on for me when I became 16. It was time to man up. Fucking hell.
She said, and picked up my clothes before she left.
I'll throw these in the washer. Don't use all the hot water.
I used all the hot water. After drying off and wrapping the towel around my waist, I walked out of the bathroom and froze in place.
Astrid?
I asked, seeing her body on the floor with a lot of blood around it. The blood probably came from the gash on her neck that almost took her head off.
Astrid? You okay?
Out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move. I whipped about and got my arm up in time to block the very big knife that was slashing at my face.
Ow!
I yelled and threw a punch right into the face of an elderly gentleman.
I'm your downstairs neighbor.
He grunted as he stumbled back, one hand gripping the very big knife and the other going to his nose to stop the gushing blood.
Oh, hi. I'm JL.
I said and extended my hand. He stared at it.
You're as retarded as they say,
he said, and took a couple of steps back.
What did you call me?
I asked, my voice very low, very calm.
Fucking retarded,
he said, and wiped his knife on his jeans, then held it up.
And unarmed, it looks like. Too bad for you, on both fronts. You don't call me that,
I said, taking a step toward him.
That word is not a nice word. You don't say that to people. It's rude and it's mean. What the fuck do I care what's rude or mean?
The man asked.
I once carved up a whole family on Thanksgiving except for the grandma. Her I gave the stuffing, if you know what I mean. I do not know what you mean,
I said, taking another step toward him.
Apologize. For giving the old broad some stuffing? Ha! Not gonna. Apologize for calling me the R word. Everyone is calling you that. Apologize. Fuck you. Apologize. Fuck you. Apologize. Fuck you.
I raced at him and he brought the knife up, but he was too old, too slow, and I knocked his arm to the side as I rammed my shoulder into his chest, sending him falling back against a window. The glass shattered and he cried out as he struggled to get free. I didn't let him. I grabbed him by the throat, yanked him up, grabbed the back of his neck, spun him around, and shoved his head into the broken glass. Then I raked his neck back and forth across that broken glass until I felt it hit bone.
Not nice,
I said to him as I walked away and over to Astrid's body. I knelt down and patted the top of her head.
You were a good girlfriend.
Then I stood up. The elderly man said everyone was calling me the R word. That was the only thing I hated more than being called James Lee. No one should be called that word. No one.
No one,
I said out loud. Then I looked about the apartment. Astrid was like me. She knew how to kill. And killers like me and her should have weapons. Lots of weapons. It took me 30 minutes before I found the part of the wall that slid aside. Daddy always said I was good at finding treasure. She had pistols and more pistols, an automatic rifle, lots of knives, a couple of things I couldn't identify. And then there it was. Protection. A Mossberg pump-action 12-gauge shotgun, and 4 bandoliers of shells right next to it.
Everyone is calling me that?
I said, as I grabbed the shotgun and the shells and got myself ready for a walk to Nikki's. I wasn't missing lunch that day. When I stepped out onto the front porch, 6 people were coming up the walkway with various weapons, none of them firearms. That was kinda dumb. A bullet whizzed by my head, and I looked over at the house across the street.
I'll see you later, Newsom!
I shouted, happy with myself that I remembered his name. Then I pointed the shotgun at the 6 people as they stopped in their tracks.
You first!
They tried to run, but they didn't get very far. I'm fast, and the spread on a 12 gauge is pretty neato. Only one made it to the street, and she didn't make it far off the curb before I blew her fucking head off.
You call me that word and think it's okay?
I shouted. I walked over to the body and stomped on the back. Blood gushed up out of the neck hole. I smiled and then looked around.
Do you call me that, Newsom?
I shouted at the house across the street.
No, sorry.
Newsom replied, and a window slowly closed.
How about you?
I yelled at a man sitting on his front porch, a couple of houses down. He got up and hurried inside. I moved out into the middle of the street, then turned in a circle.
Anyone else? Huh? You call me the R word, do you? No one is going to answer you.
I spun around and almost blew Grady's guts out.
Do you? Huh, Grady? Do you call me that name? No, JL, I don't,
he said, his hands up.
But some others do. It's not right,
I said.
People like us gotta stick together. Play is gonna play. I'm not sure that applies to this situation, but I think I get what you're going for,
he said.
We're all stuck here, so why make it worse, right? Yeah,
I said.
Why make it worse?
I paused and frowned, then looked down at my shoes. I wasn't wearing any. Or clothes. Just my towel. When I looked back up, Grady was a little closer.
Why don't I have shoes on? No clue, JL. Why am I in the middle of the street with only a towel? Because you're upset about people calling you the R word,
he said and got a little closer.
You do?
I shouted and racked a shell into the shotgun.
Motherfuckers!
Grady's eyes went wide, just as I leveled the shotgun at him.
JL, wait! I don't...
he yelled as I pulled the trigger. You ever seen one of those things? What are they called? A diorama? I had to make one in school before Daddy said I didn't have to go no more. Well, that's what the inside of Grady's chest looked like when I stood over his body. But the diorama wasn't showing what happened in some book. It showed what used to be in Grady's chest. Bits of ribs, a little hunk of lung, a partial heart, and a whole lot of blood. Pain ripped my attention from Grady, and I looked over at a woman holding a 9mm.
Fucking weird-ass Rita,
she started to say. The blast didn't take her whole head off, but it did take the lower half of her face off and most of her neck. She collapsed and slowly started to choke to death on her own blood while I watched. I rolled my left shoulder and winced.
You shot me,
I said to the choking woman.
And you were gonna call me that word.
I knelt down next to her.
I'll see your clone in a couple of hours.
And that surprised me. Clones. We're clones. Mr. Dorman's PowerPoint had started to stick in my head. Good for Mr. Dorman. I spent the rest of the day either shooting at someone or being shot at. I think by the time dinner rolled around, I had 5 bullet wounds, 3 knife wounds, and a gash on my thigh from this one guy who wrapped barbed wire around his fists. He was fun to kill. By the time I got to Nikki's, I was starving and bleeding out, and I'd lost my towel.
Grape soda and some fish and chips,
I said as I walked inside. The cook was standing by the door, and he tried to gut me with his knife, but I was way too fast for that. I blocked his thrust with one hand and jammed that shotgun barrel up under his chin with the other.
No!
Alice shouted from behind the counter.
Don't you dare paint my ceiling red with his brains! Brains are gray,
I said.
But I suppose that's better than being beige. Put the shotgun down, and I will make sure you get your grape soda and fish and chips, all right? Why wouldn't you?
I asked.
Aren't you supposed to get me what I order? James Lee Torrance, you butchered your way through Bishop's Hollow like no one has done in a very long time,
Alice said.
What I should be doing is putting you down like a rabid dog. But from what I hear, you got a beef with folks using a certain slur. My daddy called me that,
I said.
Then I'd had enough, just like today. Well, your daddy ain't here, and not everyone you gunned down called you that word. So maybe we call it even, and you set the shotgun aside so Miller there can make your dinner for you. Sound good? I am starving. I didn't get to have breakfast because my tummy was all ooky from drinking. My girlfriend Astrid and I made drinks last night.
Alice stared at me for a moment, then shook her head.
Did you go all apeshit because you had a hangover? No,
I said and shrugged.
Maybe. Never had one before. Jesus. The customers are going to have a field day with you. Now they're going to try to get you drunk so you go on more rampages. I bet they were laughing and whooping and cheering all day long. I didn't hear anything. They're not here, JL. They watch on their computers. Oh, like when Daddy watched his snuff films.
Alice blinked a few times, and I was worried she was having a stroke.
Sure,
she finally said.
Like that. Naughty customers,
I said and smiled. Then I yawned.
I sure am hungry. You go sit at the back booth, and Miller will make your dinner while I get your grape soda. Sound good? Yup.
I moved the shotgun out from under Miller's chin and smiled at him.
No hard feelings? Fuck you,
he snapped.
Miller,
Alice growled. He sighed.
Yeah, sure. No hard feelings. Cool,
I said and limped my way to the back booth. Alice brought the grape soda, and I finished it in 2 gulps. She brought me another one right away. By the time I had my fish and chips in front of me, I wasn't feeling so good. Then I perked up when Astrid walked in.
You're alive!
I yelled and tried to stand, but my legs wouldn't move. Also, my butt was stuck to the seat because I was naked and covered in blood, but mostly because my legs wouldn't move.
That's how it works around here,
she said and sat down across from me.
How are you feeling? About ready to call it a day? I'm eating dinner,
I said, and tried to pick up another fry, but it slipped through my fingers. My numb fingers.
Oopsie. Yeah, you don't look too good,
Astrid said.
Maybe we'll just sit here until you fade out. Might be easier than trying to get you back to your apartment. Okay,
I said and yawned.
I'm sleepy. You've had a big day. Did I? You did. You killed 34 people, maimed another dozen, and you're still walking. Today will become legend. Cool.
Then I yawned again and sort of slumped over.
Can't reach my grape soda,
I said just before it all went dark. Mr. Dorman stares at me for a moment as he sits behind his beige desk. While he stares, I take some time to glance around. Beige walls, beige office furniture, including the already mentioned desk, the filing cabinet, the 2 chairs, one of which I'm sitting in right now, and a beige coat rack with a brown windbreaker hanging on it.
Missed some beige,
I say and point at the coat on the rack.
The answer is no. What was the question?
He sighs. He does that a lot around me.
No, JL. You cannot put all of that into a PowerPoint presentation and show it to new residents so they don't call you the R word or try to get you drunk or call you James Lee. That is what you're asking, yes? To put everything you just told me into a PowerPoint presentation to be shown during orientation? That's a great idea!
I exclaim and jump up.
Thank you, Mr. Dorman! The answer is no, JL,
he says calmly.
Sure sounded like a yes to me. It's a no. A hard no. A no that cannot be misinterpreted as a yes. Oh, okay,
I say and shrug.
Worth a try. I just want to live up to the high standards you have set here in Bishop's Hollow, Mr. Dorman. Of course, JL. Anyway, I gotta go,
I say and give him a wink.
Gonna go have lunch at Nikki's with my girlfriend. Astrid's not here.
He shakes his head.
You know what? Have fun at lunch. Tell Astrid I say hello. Not a chance, Mr. Dorman,
I say and go to his office door.
No way I'm telling my girlfriend that the Mr. Dorman said hello. She'd jump ship to you in a heartbeat. But I get it. Play is gonna play, right, Mr. Dorman? Right, JL,
he says and picks up his phone.
I have work to do. Have fun at lunch. You know I will,
I say and leave his office. I check the 45 on my right hip the 9mm on my left hip, the machete strapped to my right leg, then the Mossberg pump-action 12-gauge shotgun I have strapped over my back that Astrid let me keep. You know, for protection. I leave Mr. Dorman's office and make my way out of the processing center. I know the way by heart now. Been walking this hall for months now. It hasn't been every day that I've respawned, but close. When I reach the front steps, I take a deep breath, pull the shotgun from my back, and pump in a shell as bullets start flying around me. Gotta run! Time for lunch so I can see my girlfriend! Thanks for listening. If you enjoy these stories, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and check out some more of my episodes here.